Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Can this team go back to the Super Bowl and possibly win the Super Bowl with this upcoming season? When I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they've done a lot of moves in free agency so far. They bring in Saquon Barkley, who's a top free agent in this class. And you bring in Bryce Huff as well, who is phenomenal at getting to the quarterback. And those are two solid moves with the Philadelphia Eagles, but they have to go out there and address other moves through the NFL draft. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are in a very good spot because you're bringing in two brand new coordinators. Now, we saw what happened last season when Shane Steichen left and he became the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and Jonathan Gannon left and he became the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. It left two massive holes with this team in that coordinating room, at the offensive coordinating spot and at the defensive coordinating spot. Unfortunately, with the Philadelphia Eagles, both of the coordinators were terrible. Coach Johnson was a horrible offensive coordinator with this team, and I want to start off with him. The offense did not look terrible for the first 11 games of the season. When they had their first loss against the New York Jets, it came down to terrible game planning, yes, but Jalen Hurts did turn the football over too much in that game. And that was the main genesis of this entire season, was how Jalen Hurts looked different from the season with Shane Steichen over with Coach Johnson. If you look at him, his 2022 season, 22 passing touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. In 2023, 23 passing touchdowns to 15 interceptions. So the turnovers were up, and it put this defense behind the 8 ball as well. A lot of that came down to play calling of Coach Johnson later in the season, because you had a lot of times throughout the season that Jalen Hurts would throw the football 35 plus times in the game. Jalen Hurts is not the best passer in the NFL. We all know that. And this is not me saying that Jalen Hurts will never be a top 5 to top 10 passer. He can develop his game to being in that category. But when you look at Jalen Hurts' game, it's benefited off of the run game. He's a quarterback that benefits a lot off of having the run game at his disposal, and he can also run the football as well. He's one of the better running quarterbacks in the NFL. You don't want him to sit into the pocket for the entire game like a Joe Burrow or a Peyton Manning in the past. Instead, that's what they try to turn him into at times this season. And you look at the horrible game playing against the blitzes. That is what did them in against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were cooked outright. Where you're calling slant and curl routes against the blitz and they're sending the house towards Jalen Hurts, it's only so much that he can do with the play calls that he was dealt with when it comes to Coach Johnson. So it's a reason why they moved off of him. You're bringing in Kellen Moore, who I do believe will be a better offensive coordinator with this team. He's a former offensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys. He had some good seasons there, and he had a very good season with the Los Angeles Chargers as well with Justin Herbert. What he has to do with Jalen Hurts is use that run game and use Jalen Hurts' legs as well. You have Saquon Barkley. This is one of the best running backs that they have had in quite some time. The Philadelphia Eagles have not went out there and spent big money on a running back since they did with DeMarco Murray. Now, DeMarco Murray was a terrible running back with his team, but it's two different situations here. Saquon Barkley is very explosive, can catch the football at the backfield, and he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. He was able to put up good production on a bad New York Giants team. This is the most talent that he's ever been around. Jalen Hurts, despite his passing numbers, he's a very good quarterback, and he's a top quarterback in the NFL, and especially in the NFC. And you have those two monsters on the outside, and Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert at the tight end spot. So he cannot just fully go out there and stack the box against this team, because Jalen Hurts can go out there as well, and he can keep the football, and he can rush for 15 to 20 yards. So the run game should be phenomenal with this team. Yes, they lost Jason Kelce due to retirement, but this is still a very strong offensive line. I expect for this offense to be better for this upcoming season than they have ever been with Jalen Hurts, for the simple fact that you're bringing in that explosive counterpart of Saquon Barkley. And you have Kenneth Gainwell as a very good backup running back as well. And it's not me saying that Miles Sanders was a bad running back when he was with this team, but we've seen over the last couple of years, this offensive line is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And it seems like any running back can just drop in and give you good production. Imagine what Saquon Barkley can do with this team with that explosiveness that he has. He's dealt with injuries in the past, but when he's been fully healthy, he's one of the best in the game. And it gives Jalen Hurts an extra weapon out the backfield as well. It was too many times this season to where DeAndre Swift was not the guy that they could rely on in the pass game. And they didn't try to use him like that either. Now, Kellen Moore in the past has went out there and he's forced Dak Prescott to throw the football 45 to 50 times in the game. You don't want to do that with Jalen Hurts. Use the run game, work on the RPO, and get the football to guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And that's one thing that was very interesting with this team. When the offense is not able to put up those big time numbers, you really started to look at Coach Johnson and say, okay, what's going on here? Because the offensive system is not the same. What Shane Stockton was able to do with move A.J. Brown around, move Devontae Smith around, we didn't get to see much of that with Coach Johnson. Like I mentioned before, when they were going against those blitzing defenses that the New York Jets basically exposed his team for, that's what they had a weakness against, he did not have an answer for it. Instead of going out there and dumping the ball down to the running back or just trying to run some double routes and stacking wide receivers on top of each other, he didn't do that. He would put everybody spread it out, and he would basically just have those guys run curl routes, and he just left Jalen Hurts as a sitting duck going against the blitz. So you hope that Kellen Moore can come in and he can be a better offensive coordinator with this team. But it also comes down to Jalen Hurts as well. He has to do a better job of reading NFL defenses and taking care of the football. Their defense was pretty much the big reason to why they were not as good on the back half of the season. Granted, they dealt with a lot of injuries. Darius Slay, he missed some time dealing with an injury. He got injured in the playoff game as well. The linebackers were decimated, but they could not get to the quarterback. And the Philadelphia Eagles, over the last couple of years, dating back to when they beat the Patriots in that Super Bowl, they've been known to put pressure on the quarterback. They're not able to do that on the back half of the season. And we saw them get hurt because of that. They went out and they bring in a very good pass rusher and Bryce Huff from the New York Jets. Now, Bryce Huff is not an every down defensive lineman. Bryce Huff is very good on third down. He's known for going out there and getting the sacks immediately. He's not the best run-stopping defensive lineman, but I love the fact that you have him and Josh Sweat. I think that Bryce Huff is going to benefit a lot from playing alongside guys like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, because you did lose Fletcher Cox, but they have been waiting on this for the last couple of years. That's why they have went out there and they have screened this defensive line in the NFL draft over the last couple of years. So it's Howie Roseman going out there and doing the best that he can to prepare for when those veterans do step down. The same with Jason Kelce as well. You have Cam Jurgens at the center spot. We'll see if he can be a very good center with this team. Brandon Graham is not the same defensive lineman, but he can still give you some very good snaps here and there. It starts with the trenches and it starts with the defensive lineman. Hopefully Bryce Huff can come in. He can put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and the rest of the defensive line can work out as well. When you look at the linebackers, you bring in a guy like Devin White. Devin White is a very weird linebacker to look at, because we can go back a couple of years ago when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went on their Super Bowl run. He was phenomenal. He was lights out. Since then, he hasn't gotten back to that play. One game, he'll go out there, he'll have 12 tackles, he'll have an interception, possibly a pick six, he'll look very good. The next game, he'll just go completely quiet. But one thing that he is very good at, that is tackling. The Philadelphia Eagles on the back half of the season, they could not tackle, they could not cover. Devin White can go out there, he could tackle, and he's a very good athletic linebacker as well, and he can fit the system of Vic Fangio, who is going to be the brand new defensive coordinator with this team. We've seen him do great work in the past. When he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, he was a phenomenal defensive head coach. The team as a whole wasn't good, but the defense was very good, and he just did good work with the Miami Dolphins as well. You bring him over to the Philadelphia Eagles, hopefully he can work out with this team. Players in the past, they don't really like Coach Vic, but he's a very good coach. So hopefully you can come in and get these guys in the right situation, because the defensive line, they need to go out there, get to the quarterback, and the linebackers have to go out there and tackle as well. From a scheme standpoint, he can come in and he can do some wonders, and he can come in and help this team be aggressive as well. And he's not a defensive coordinator that is known to go out there and blitz. He's known to go out there and put defensive players in certain sets and put them in the best situations as possible. And the reason why I bring that up, you look at the secondary with this team, they need help, because you look at James Bradberry this season, he was horrible. 780 receiving yards allowed, 7 pass breakups, yes, but 11 touchdowns allowed as well to just 1 interception. He was terrible this season. And this comes off a season to where this team went to the Super Bowl and he looked very solid that season. But for the majority of this season, he did not look good at all. When you had him matched up on the number 1 wide receiver, he looked terrible. Darius Slay did miss time, but he looked better than James Bradberry. And it's hard for James Bradberry right now, because Philadelphia Eagle fans will never let go of the fact that he had that holding penalty against the Kansas City Chiefs and that Super Bowl, which ultimately led to the Kansas City Chiefs being in field goal range and kicking that field goal for the win. So James Bradberry has to be better with this team. I can see them moving off of James Bradberry after this upcoming season if he is not better, because right now it is tough for him. You did bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was very good a couple of years ago when they went to that Super Bowl and they made that Super Bowl push against the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a guy that's known for coming in there, taking the football away, and being a playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. And that's one thing with the Philadelphia Eagles. They need more playmakers, and they need more guys that can go out there and get to the quarterback as soon as possible. Hopefully they can do that, because if not, you're spending a lot of money right now. Jalen Hurts is paid like a top quarterback in the NFL. A.J. Brown is paid like a top wide receiver as well, and A.J. Brown is a top wide receiver. Devontae Smith will have to get paid soon as well. You have Dallas Goedert at the tight end spot. You have Saquon Barkley. You have all these weapons on the offensive end. You should be able to lean on that offense to carry you over some of those dark days if your defense cannot work out. But at the same time, you have some very good defensive talent in that front seven. I love their two starting defensive tackles. And Jalen Carter is a very good defensive tackle. I think that he could be very good with this team long term, and the same with Jordan Davis as well. I worry about the linebacking spot because they're still thin, and if they have a couple of injuries, they may be in a similar situation to what just happened coming off of this season. And their secondary, I like Darius Slay. I really do. James Bradbury, not as much. You're starting to see him on the back end of his career. If they can go out there and draft a cornerback in the first round that is young and athletic and that can match up with guys like CeeDee Lamb in this division, that can match up with guys like Terry McLaurin in this division, I think they'll be in a better situation. And we saw this season, we saw Sam Howell not once but twice this season air out this defense. And the defensive line was getting to Sam Howell at a high clip. We saw Dak Prescott not once, but twice this season give this defense a lot of problems. And the defensive line was still getting to him. And that's when the defensive line was able to touch the quarterback. For those last couple of games, they're not able to. Their secondary has to be better. Hopefully Vic can come in and he can fix that. And I know they're going to have a huge emphasis on that in the NFL draft as well. But I look at the moves that the Philadelphia Eagles have made. I think that they will be in a better situation for this upcoming season than they were last season. Do I expect for them to start the season off being 11-1? No. But I expect for them to go out there and possibly win this division, get a home playoff game, and to be in a better situation. Because we look at what happened this season. When they had that tough loss against the New York Jets, you can say, okay, that was a fluke. When they had that loss against the San Francisco 49ers, they could not tackle, they could not cover in space, and Jalen Hurts could not carry them over the hump over and over again. You have to find consistency with the defense and have to find consistency with the run game as well. And it was too many times this season to where they gave up on the run game and they wanted Jalen Hurts to go out there and be the savior for them. That's all fine and cool. Jalen Hurts can be that guy when you need him to. In the past, we've seen Jalen Hurts be clutch, but he can't just go out there and shoulder all the responsibility on him. That is why Coach Johnson got fired, and the reason why Coach Gannon not Coach Gannon, the other defensive coordinator that came in right before Matt Patricia had to come in for the last couple of games, the reason why they moved on for him was a similar situation. They did not put the defensive players in the right situations, and you look at Coach Patricia, he wasn't that better either. We saw what they had happen against the Seattle Seahawks. They lost by 3 points. Their secondary was cooked in that game by Drew Lock. So you're having backup quarterbacks go out there and mid-level quarterbacks in general go out there and cook your defense. That can't happen. For the last 8 weeks of the season, they led up 30 passing touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. Those are numbers for a very good quarterback in the NFL. That is what the secondary led up in 8 weeks. That's ridiculous. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Philadelphia Eagles, and will they be in a better situation for this upcoming season, or are they screwed long term? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless.